In tonight's headlines, Housing Secretary Winnie Ho says tenants of subdivided units will not get priority in allocation for public housing. It is not necessary to disclose every violation that happens at care homes, says Secretary for Welfare Chris Sun. And the manager of the SAR's Economic and Trade Office in London appears in a British court on alleged charges of spying.
As the government is preparing to submit legislative proposal to regulate subdivided units by the end of this year, Housing Secretary Winnie Ho noted that the government tends to handle simpler cases first, for instance, tenants with shorter relocation time, while stressing that to speed up the allocation of affected residents to public housing is impractical. Talking to iCable's new program, Let's Talk, Ho acknowledged public concerns over inadequate living conditions, but the enforcement must follow certain priorities, resolving simpler cases first. Apart from the living conditions, if quite a number of residents in the buildings are having shorter waiting times for public housing or nearing relocation, these units could be prioritized for enforcement actions, she said. Adequate supply of public housing units will also play an important role, Ho added. However, Ho warned against directly linking public housing waiting times to subdivided unit issues, as this could incentivize individuals to move into those flats with poor or even extremely bad conditions to expedite relocation, jeopardizing the current public housing waiting mechanism. Letting affected residents move to public housing more quickly is not practical, she said. On the standards for basic housing units, including those without windows and relying on exhaust fans, the housing chief indicated that discussions on specific criteria are ongoing and that there is room for flexibility. Nonetheless, the Housing Bureau considers 8 square meters to be the minimum suitable living space. Currently, over 110,000 households reside in subdivided units, but Ho noted that only about 30,000 will need to be phased out or enforced against. She expressed confidence that with more than 70,000 basic housing units available, the supply will be adequate to meet demand. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News. Labor and Welfare Secretary Chris Sun said not all violations in care homes require full disclosure of details, following an alleged sexual assault incident at a Hong Chi care home that recently got exposed. Some violations are technical and minor, and we would follow the proper procedures for those situations, Sun explained. However, if the issue escalates to a serious level and attracts significant public concern, we will definitely make it public. According to the Social Welfare Department's website, over the past year, 4 other residential care homes have also been warned for suspected abuse, though the department only cited violations of the Code of Practice for residential care homes without details.
The strong wind signal number 3 will remain in force at least until 10 p.m. tonight. The Hong Kong Observatory said, under the combined effect of Trami and the northeast monsoon, parts of the territory were affected by strong winds in the past few hours. The outer ring bands associated with Trami are affecting the vicinity of Pearl River estuary. The forecaster predicted that, with Trami departing gradually, local winds will weaken tonight to tomorrow morning, adding that it will consider lowering the warning signal to number 1 depending on the changes in local wind conditions.
Commuters traveling on the MTR Tong Chong line are reminded that train services between Tong Chong and Sunny Bay stations will end about 2 hours earlier than usual today due to essential track diversion works. The final train departing from Tong Chong Station to Hong Kong Station will leave at 11:15 p.m., while the last train from Hong Kong Station to Tong Chong Station will depart at 11:07 p.m. Once the last trains between the Tong Chong and Hong Kong stations departed, train services between the Hong Kong and Sunny Bay stations will resume normal until the usual end of service time. The rail operator has arranged free shuttle buses running at a 3-minute interval maximum as an alternative means of transport between Sunny Bay and Tong Chong stations. Around 100 MTR staff will also be deployed to assist passengers.
A survey revealed that the average satisfaction score of public housing residents with the markets in their housing estates was a mere 4.3 on a scale of 10, according to the Alliance for the Monitoring of Welfare and Planning at Public Housing Estates. The group collected 700 questionnaires online and on-site from September to October, covering over 40 housing estates across the city, among which Chongqing Shopping Center in Kuaiting District received the lowest score of only 1.2. Currently, the shopping center only contains a few vegetable stores and restaurants, while the rest are closed and posted for rent. This woman, who has been doing business in the market for 20 years, said the flow rates and business are very poor. This man said no one comes to this market, and it is difficult to improve the situation as everyone is shopping online. Meanwhile, nearly 80% of the respondents expressed that the prices of goods at the markets in public housing estates are higher than those at nearby markets, with many also reporting a lack of variety. Some residents also reflected that some of the markets often failed to operate 20 days per month. And the shortened daily opening hours made it difficult for citizens to shop conveniently. Member of the Alliance, Yip Yik Shan said, irregular opening hours make it difficult for residents to do their groceries near their estates, leading to a vicious cycle that people going elsewhere to shop. The Alliance suggested that the Housing Authority should collect the residents' views and improve the environment of markets by increasing the variety of goods and the choice of shops. Evelyn Bai, Cable News. Police conducted the first interdepartmental tabletop exercise for the Kai Tak Sports Park at the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters, rehearsing emergency responses during large-scale events. The drill stimulated a series of potential incidents during concerts and international football matches. Over 150 representatives from various government departments and related organizations took part in the exercise, including the Security Bureau, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, the Transport and Logistics Bureau, the Hospital Authority, and the Fire Services Department. Various departments and relevant stakeholders were required to allocate manpower immediately, implement contingency measures, and coordinate actions with other units in response to different emergencies in real time. Meanwhile, the Kai Tak Youth Sports Ground is scheduled to host its first test match this Sunday, expecting to draw around 1,000 attendees, while the KTSP is set to officially open in the first quarter of next year. A 69-year-old woman was injured during a robbery in Shamshui Po, losing nearly $5,000 in cash and some personal belongings. The incident occurred at around 11 p.m. last night, when a knife-wielding assailant threatened the victim at the intersection of Tong Chau Street and Yan Chau Street. In an attempt to resist, the woman sustained a cut to her right hand and suffered a fracture in her left hand. The robber snatched the victim's handbag, which contained cash, and fled the scene towards Lai Chi Kok Road. Police were called to the scene, rushing the victim to Caritas Medical Center after initial treatment on site. The case is still under further investigation.
An alleged spying case involving the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in London resumed in court for plea and pre-trial preparations on Friday local time, with the defense asking for more information from the prosecution to process evidence. but the request was denied by judge at the Central Criminal Court after the prosecution said more than sufficient evidence was available for the trial to proceed. The two defendants, 63-year-old office manager of the city's trade promotion office in London, Bill Yuan, and 38-year-old Peter Y, reportedly a UK border force officer and the director of a private security firm, faced charges under Britain's National Security Act. They were charged in May with assisting a foreign intelligence service by engaging in unlawful information gathering, illegal surveillance, and committing acts of deception. Neither man appeared at the court, entered a plea, and both only confirmed their personal details. The judge postponed the case to a preliminary proceeding on November 22nd and denied Yuan's request to lift his curfew, maintaining the two's original bail conditions. A formal trial is set to begin on February 10th next year and will last for 5 weeks. The case came into the spotlight after Matthew Trickett, a 37-year-old former Royal Marine and Home Office immigration officer who was initially charged alongside the defendants, was found dead a few days before his second scheduled court appearance in May. Post-mortem results showed no suspicious circumstances surrounding his death. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Iran said its missile defense system worked as expected against Israeli airstrikes, which it claimed caused limited damage. The counterattack lit up the pre-dawn sky over the capital, Tehran. News outlets in Iran claimed that Israeli jets had targeted military bases in Tehran and the western provinces of Khuzestan and Elam, which border Iraq. The Iranian army said 2 of its soldiers were killed. Israeli military spokesman Daniel Hagari said all aircraft involved in the attack had returned back safely and the objective of the strike was achieved. The destruction of Iran's surface-to-air missile batteries will give Israel more aerial freedom in future operations, Hagari added. Israel was responding to an earlier attack in which Tehran launched more than 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel last month. The retaliation by Israel further increases the risk of an all-out war in the Middle East, where Iran-backed militia group Hezbollah is fighting against an Israeli invasion into southern Lebanon. Continuing to engage Palestinian group Hamas in the Gaza Strip, more than 43,000 people have died since Israel invaded the besieged enclave last year. Sachin Katwi, Cable News. Cybercriminals allegedly linked to China have been blamed for hacking into the phones or communication networks used by former US President Donald Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance. Although it is not clear if any sensitive information has been compromised, but Trump and Vance have been made aware of the situation. A joint statement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Security Agency CISA said the US government was investigating the unauthorized access to commercial telecommunications infrastructure by actors affiliated with the People's Republic of China. US authorities are treating the hack as an act of espionage. Trump has blamed his Democrat rivals for the violation, saying it is an attempt to stop him from returning to the White House. With just 10 days to go before the presidential election on November 5th, Trump's anti-China rhetoric has gone to an all-time high.